Welcome once again to Syntax Error, your pretentious, philosophical, pedantic podcast ostensibly about video gaming and related topics therein. Warning, this podcast contains mature language, content, and spoilers. You have been warned.
Previously on Back When I Had Empathy, we discussed the best character deaths in video games. Well, not best, but most impactful. And we promised you this time that we were going to discuss the least impactful deaths.
Most ineffectual.
Ineffectual, yes. Well, we lied. Welcome to Syntax Error, live from Satan's mouth. I'm here with Brutus.
Hello.
That's Scott Thurlow.
And ow, stop chewing me.
Yeah, that's Scott Thurlow. You can find him at Beyond Monsters on Twitter. We are here with Cassius.
That's me, I guess.
Stephen Ormosi. You can find him at Stevo83. Okay. That's 2 E's in there. And I am the great Judas himself, Jonathan Ian Manser, at Monstrum. That's Monstrum with a V instead of a U, Old Latin style. So this time we're talking about betrayal in video games, which is really a death sentence in video games. It's generally, when you're dealing with morality of betrayal, it is one of the greatest sins you can commit in games. So I like to dive in with, have all of you played Grand Theft Auto? Because I think that's the grandfather of betrayal.
Grand Theft Betrayal, yes, I have played that. Many of them.
Yes, I've played a couple of them as well.
What do you think the best betrayals in those games were?
I don't know. So the thing is, it's hard to remember some of them because you get betrayed all the inevitably, of course, and many times. I know which one you're going to say, so I won't steal that answer. I like 4, I think. Because it was more like, yes, you're going to get betrayed. It was almost like you get to choose who you get betrayed by. Like, there was a little choice, like the corrupt police guy or and his brother, whatever. Like, so you could decide with one or the other. And, of course, whatever one is left alive is going to betray you. So that one was pretty good. I just remember it as a good one that I thought was a well-done use of it, if you know you're going to get betrayed, especially because it was a GTA game.
I'm not... So... As I've probably mentioned a couple times in other podcasts that we've done, I'm not a huge fan of the GTA games. I've played a couple of them, and I get into them for a little bit, but really, I don't remember much about the stories. I can't remember a specific betrayal that had any impact on me at all.
Everyone betrays you, like I said.
Well, that's the other thing. You know, it's a game basically based on you're just a criminal and you're kind of just going to get fucked over, or you're just going to fuck somebody else over.
Usually, but at least not in 4, you weren't a criminal. Yeah, you became one, but it's not like you started out one. Anyway, that's all.
Well, now, considering the original, I'm talking about Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2, you betray everyone if you're doing it correctly. You're killing everyone you ever worked for.
Yeah.
But those were more of, as Scott put once upon a time, that there were the precursors to Hotline Miami.
Hotline Miami is that, essentially. Yeah.
So 3s weren't really the narrative, although I feel that 3's narrative falls apart halfway through the game.
It's bland. A bit.
They put so much effort into the initial Italian mob storyline. A lot of influences of the Sopranos back in the day.
Yeah.
They even had on the radio...
even the Godfather stuff, like all those classic
But movies. They specifically have one of the characters calling into the talk radio to discuss his problems.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, they had the Godfather. But, yeah, generally it was... It really discussed that kind of genre, and you inevitably end up betraying Salvatore Leone.
Whatever it was, yeah, I think it was Salvatore something for sure.
But he ends up betraying you first because he's paranoid in his power, and I thought that was very effective the way they did the opening, because you really got to meet a good 4 or 5 members of that organization, and really feel like you're working your way up. When you get to the Yakuza section of the game, I really feel that they had spent their load on the first part of the game.
Kind of, I agree with that.
And when Maria, I believe it was, or Carla,
I don't
something
remember,
like that. Maria was the Don's girlfriend.
I think there was a Maria in 4 too. There was also maybe her name was Kate or Katie in 4. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
Carlita? Something like that.
That sounds correct, yeah. Let's go with that. We'll look it up later.
She ends up killing one of your friends within the Yakuza.
Mm-hmm.
But by that point, the plot is so threadbare.
Anyways, yeah.
And none of these characters were characterized. That I didn't care at all.
So it doesn't matter whether
Betrayal
or not they're doing it.
A much bigger step up was Vice City.
Agree. I know you're going to go on.
Now you have a character, Lance Vance, who is the person who betrays you right at the end. But again, like I don't think it's very effective betrayal because it's about it happened. I was expecting that sometime. About time we got around to you screwing me over.
That's fair enough.
But this is where then when we get to San Andreas, I didn't
play all of San Andreas, by the way.
But it's the most effective betrayal because it really captures you getting to know these characters.
What was it? I didn't play it, so what was it?
Big Smoke and Ryder.
Or what, like the...
Betray you to the Ballers, I think they were. And they were members
I played maybe
like
an hour of San Andreas, so I don't remember all the plot and the characters and the gangs, etc.
Well, I'll give you a quick overview. You come in as a character. You used to live in this neighborhood in Compton, basically, or their version of it.
Yeah, they're XP for it, sure.
You're living in New York. You come back and you get involved in your family's kind of gang warfare. But from the very fact that you're dealing with characters you've known your entire life, and particularly one is a fat comic relief character who endeared himself to me.
Yeah.
And then
when he betrays,
like, Big Smoke. How could you be? We shared good times.
I thought we were homies. Yeah.
And that's the difference, I think, between Betrayals and Grand Theft Auto, is that you had Lance Vance, who kind of was a whiny bitch throughout most of the game.
Well, he was like, it's like you're getting in a pissing contest with him every time, even though you're supposed to be partners and you're working for the mob or whatever.
You're overshadowing him, just like his brother was.
Yeah. He felt like you were stepping on his toes or something.
But you have
you
have no history with this character besides the crime you're committing.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's no investment
that's a good point.
in him. Whereas in this, they're talking about things they've experienced in the past. You grew up with these people, and that makes the betrayal hit all the more hard.
Agreed. It's not like Lance Vance was not like your brother or something, like your best friend from childhood. Like it's like, hey, I need two guys to start doing my mob business, crimes for me. So let's get these guys. Sure, but something you said in 5, the two main characters, Trevor and Michael, they were like in a gang back in the day. Like it opens with like a bank robbery that they did like back in the 70s with a third partner, and Michael covered up the fact that the third partner is still alive and like made a deal or something like that. Trevor thinks he's dead the whole time. And it's not like Mike. Like yes, my characters betrayed each other essentially because you play as both. But that I thought was pretty good because it goes back. Like they were like buddies from back in the day in a gang, and Trevor's like fuck you man. Like it's a very good scene where the real finally figures it out that Michael's been lying to him, and like it sort of changes a bit of the arc in the story. I thought it was well done. Maybe they got smart enough by the time 5 came around. They're like, okay, we need to do a better betrayal essentially.
Well, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, if you have to have an effective betrayal, you have to have a backstory that you actually give a shit about. Like, if it's a character that you've hated the whole game as a player, and he betrays you,
you're like,
gives
great,
a shit.
like,
good,
great, now
awesome,
I can kill him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it is that death sentence that you were talking about earlier, where you're like, finally, I can kill this asshole.
Well, I'm going to use that as a transition, because in Dragon Age Origins, the game basically, after you get over the introductory period, the game basically starts with a betrayal. With a character, the king you're working for, who, again, very likable. He's very full of energy.
He's personable.
Yeah, very personable. And this wise character that has become your mentor. Again, you play a small soldier in this grand army.
Yeah.
And they do the Robert Bruce, where this character is supposed to come to your aid in this war, and he turns his back. And even though you don't know this character, even though the betrayal, it means nothing to you personally, but I think because it's not necessarily the betrayer being, but it's the character you're attached to. But you get attached to other characters,
right? So you have a proxy for it.
Yeah, and the betrayal is more felt because they're hurting people you come to like.
Yeah,
so I
that's
think
a good point. That would be effective, I mean, like you're like, I don't like I'm my character, but if I'm attached to the NPCs, then I'm like, yeah, well, fuck you, you're hurting whoever.
Yeah, exactly. You want to protect, whoever has protected you throughout the game or helped you.
Yeah, so like it's interesting because so that was Origins, right? I didn't play. I think I played Dragon Age 2 for sure, and then I just played Inquisition, as I mentioned, it was my game of the year. But it's sort of like a reverse of like you basically you're the Inquisitor, so you build up your army, and like there was never like a big betrayal. Like it's sort of like a classic big bad, like a monster from beyond the veil is coming to like the darkspawn of all darkspawn like shows up, and like that's the setup for it. And no character betrayed me. Maybe they do if I did different choices, but like I was on good terms with everyone in my party, and you know like I was sort of like people looked upon me as the ruler and like as a savior of the thing, and yeah, so like you know, if they betrayed me, they were fucked because then the Darkspawn would murder them all. Like, it was a good setup narratively. Like I thought it was well used. So like maybe they were subverting that in a bit. Like BioWare is really good. We agree. So like you know they're kind of maybe more aware of that kind of stuff.
But in the original Dragon Age, the initial battle happens between your forces and the Darkspawn.
Yeah.
And the character is such a fatalist about the Darkspawn situation that he turns his back because he doesn't think the battle can be won.
Yeah, they mentioned that too. So like, it's referenced in game in Inquisition because it's hundreds of years later, or like whatever. It was like the fourth, what do they call it? The fourth blight, right? And like you get more of that story. Like you get to both sides of it. He did it because he thought it was a hopeless battle, so he retreated. It's like why murder my men at all? But yeah, but then you're like, and then the other people are like, yeah, but he left them there to die. You know, like so they again BioWare very smartly like drew that as a in-game myth legend in their own thing, and then gave you more sides of it. Like so, maybe like you thought it was a betrayal, maybe you weren't.
So since there's so many different facets to Betrayal, Steve-O has prepared a list of tropes, which are cliches we don't know within
commonly used narrative devices
in games and other mediums. So he specifically researched those about Betrayal. And if Steve, would you like to take over?
Yep. Sounds good. I actually got most of this list from Giant Bob. Did a really good article on this. So anyway, there's a bunch of tropes. There's 3 different categories. The first category is top-down betrayal, which is basically somebody who's in charge of you, or
the king thing, like you just said.
So the first one of that, and I don't know how do you want to do this. You want to like talk about each one of these, like have a discussion about each one of these as I go through them, or do you want me to just list them all?
I feel that if we come up with topics to speak about them, we'll do it. But just go ahead. And
okay. Read them down, and I'll try to think of examples as you go.
All right. So the first one on the list is armies are evil. Your standard,
the evil paramilitary.
Yeah, your standard,
company or whatever.
You're going up against a seemingly unwinnable battle against tons of people, a giant army or what have you, paramilitary organization, whatever.
The Mook Army, of course.
Right. The next one on the list.
Go
ahead.
Now, when you mention that, is it your army betrays you? Who's actually doing the betraying?
So this is a lot of times. The way that I look at this is a lot of times it's an army that's either aligned with you or your people that ends up being,
you're working for the evil corporation,
that ends up
you don't know it,
betraying you, or
like Umbrella, but you don't know their Umbrella.
Kind of. There's another one that I'm actually going to tie Umbrella into, but similar to that, where they are they're an army that you're supposed to trust, and they end up just being a bunch of assholes, pretty much.
Mercenaries that switch sides.
Right.
Yeah, capriciously. I guess, yeah. Okay.
Something like that. The next one is misplaced fandom. As a character or the protagonist's hero betrays them. And
actually, I'd like to discuss that for a second. Because while I can see scenarios where that applies, on general, if you trust someone without reason, if you worship a person who's a jerk in real life, and then you come to realize that I don't feel a real betrayal, because it's not a conscious act of betrayal.
Yeah, but you can still feel betrayed in that case. However, one good
example, the real personality, not if they're like betraying you for some reason.
I mean, I think the feeling of betrayal is still there, even if that's the case. It's a loose
definition of it, yeah.
If we're doing
just because you have built up this the way that you look at them similar to the way that you look at a friend who you actually know is based on what you know about them, and if they come to completely be different than that, that's a betrayal of the image that they've created.
I actually watched an old movie the other day, Mystery Men.
Yeah. I like that movie.
I like it too.
And they have the superhero in there. I forget.
Ben Stiller? Which one?
No. He's Greg Kinnear, I think is.
Greg Kinney? I don't know.
No,
I don't remember some of the shit.
Regardless, he's the actual legitimate superhero.
Okay,
right? Yeah. And he has the advertisements all over his costume.
Yeah.
And all of them look up to him because he's a legitimate superhero, but he's a total asshole in person.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what you're saying. But again, I don't blame him for being an asshole if they thought he was awesome.
Well, he's built up this whole public persona of not being an asshole, and then
true. The betrayal comes from that, in a sense.
Right. It's being disingenuous on one level of your personality, and then when you actually meet the person, that's completely not the case.
But don't we all wear masks?
Of course.
Agreed. And also,
however, be prepared to be called out on them when you take it off.
Sure, fair enough. And also, real quickly, this is a plug for our Powers podcast where we discuss that hero worship topic, misplaced fandom, perhaps.
Right.
Check it out later. Go on.
I was actually going to list an example of that, just one off the top of my head, Metal Gear Solid 4, and actually in a bunch of the games, but this is the one that I specifically, in a bunch of the Metal Gear Solid games, but this is the one that I specifically remembered. At the end of that game, you find out that you have to basically battle the person that trained you, like the boss.
You can spoil
is
it.
like,
You know for spoilers.
Well, I'm not concerned about that.
Okay.
But you basically have to take on the person who trained you all through, and that's I think a more specific example where like that person was a friend to you.
All right, I'll give you I think maybe a better one. The one I had on my list was in the first Assassin's Creed. Al Mualim, AI or i.e. your mentor, betrays you. Like at the end of the day, he's like he has you murdering other Templars. The Templars must be stopped, and of course he's the last Templar,
right?
And you have the big duel with him. So like yeah. That one also falls into something else, but that would be one where he's your mentor.
A couple
and,
of these categories.
Yeah.
Actually, I just remembered something about the army that betrays you, in a sense. Remember Starcraft?
Yes.
Actually, a very
I don't know if I
effective
remember the story of it very well.
Was when Kerrigan gets left behind by her own troops.
It sounds familiar. I can't. I've been a long time since I played.
Right. So this is the story of Kerrigan gets left behind, then gets incorporated into the Zerg, and becomes like the Zerg Queen.
Oh,
that was really good. That's a good example. Like
that I remember that shocked me the first time I played it.
That was a really cool story.
Good call. Yeah.
Line.
Good example.
Which Starcraft was pretty good campaign wise. On top of the awesome multiplayer that it had, I haven't played it in years, but
did any of you play the second one?
I haven't yet. No, I have a couple friends who are big into it, but I've never played it. I hear it's awesome. I don't know about the campaign though. That's a lot of like multiplayer stuff.
I played way more Warcraft than I played Starcraft ever.
Yeah. Also a great game. Also a very good story.
Which
actually.
I don't remember that. I remember it even less because it was before that. Go on.
Right.
What else?
So anyway, next one, the Heartless Corporation.
Yeah, that's Umbrella. Yeah, you're right.
This is gonna be like something like Umbrella, or like I never played these games, but I know you did, and I kind of got this feeling from them. Deus Ex, was that similar to that?
Kind of, yes.
So like it's a company you're supposed to trust, and then
Deus Ex was a really good game. You should play it. It was Human Revolution is the one I played. I never played the original PC ones. It was sort of like the fucking Blade Runner, like Tyrell Corporation. They're like competing with each other, and like it was a good. Actually, that was a good betrayal. It was sort of like Misplaced Fandom. The one, whatever one you said before, it was both of those almost.
I was gonna say, don't you work for them originally, and then
they comment,
and then they betray you.
But Deus Ex is a very smart, intelligent game that comments more upon it. But they knew they were using those, or they used them purposefully.
So is Black Mesa heartless or incompetent?
Both, 50-50.
I'd say both, yeah. But I never trusted them for a second, so.
The tram ride was really.
I guess
donuts, whatever.
The tram ride at the beginning of Half-Life 1 is the last time that I trusted Black Mesa.
Although you saw the spills of not raw sewage, but radioactive material, and like missiles just left out
just
along
laying
the
around.
track.
They didn't have the manpower to man the facility, and
They could build this great underfunded facility, but they would just leave missiles lying around.
listen. We can talk about Half-Life for a long time because it's so great, but. I walked in the office and like, hey, have a cup of coffee. Hey, it's cool. My coworkers are cool. You know, whether or not the bosses knew what they were doing, I don't know. Anyway,
Nobody expects the portal from another dimension.
hey, yeah, come on, that was in my contract. Gordon Freeman never signed up for that shit.
That's the first thing you expect.
Maybe.
That's the first thing you start expecting after you've played Fallout before, or Half-Life before.
Maybe, yeah. Go on.
Anyway, next one is Cruel Kingdoms / Empires. And I thought an interesting thing that article said about this was that, and you know, something that is obvious once it's said, but the closer you are to the throne,
The more removed
less,
you are
yeah,
from
well,
the suffering
from,
of others
yeah,
caused by
the
the
less
Empire.
you understand how evil your empire actually is.
See, the issue I have with that is, if you're taking like there are very few truly like evil like kingdoms out there. Like if they're not like yes, you have like Ivan the Terribles and things like that in real life.
Ganondorf's kingdom was probably evil.
Yeah, but like it's
The
not
Dark
like,
World was evil.
Yeah, but you're never. That's not a betrayal.
If you're ruling a kingdom
true, yeah.
of
You're right.
the dead in a sense, you're not really like. I think if you're talking about actually having people living under your
Yeah,
rule,
you're right. I just thought it was a funny thing.
if you're oppressive, I think it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of like if you feel that like Machiavellian policies aren't the right way to pursue governance.
But they are. That's the
Well,
whole point.
one that immediately comes to mind right now actually is Gladiator for this, the movie.
Yeah, right.
Where as Russell Crowe, you're like, his character was like great friends with the
Previous emperor.
Caesar or whatever.
Marcus Aurelius.
Marcus Aurelius.
Right. And then he dies, and somebody else takes over the throne, which he expects.
Commodus, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was Commodus.
It is Commodus.
But so like his character expects the rule to be the same, and he gets completely thrown under the fucking bus and fucked over the entire movie. And like
Thrown
that's
under a
kind of a
horse.
good. I think it's kind of a good example of this.
It's a good one, yeah.
But again, it's not in a sense. It's painting characters as monsters versus like the oppressed hero, and I think that's
Important distinction.
Yeah, it's disingenuous narrative.
It's not. It's not realistic, perhaps, but however, it is a very
They set it
widely
up for
used
the
trope.
story.
But
yeah.
I feel that if we're talking, yes, well, betrayals can happen like that for effective betrayals. For actually emotionally, it can't have shoehorned in
artificial like setup.
mustache twirling villains betraying you because you should have seen that coming.
It's obvious that
Perhaps,
they're
like
gonna betray.
in terms of that movie, it was set up that way, or we perhaps didn't. If you were watching it for the first time, you perhaps didn't expect Aurelius to die. Marcus Aurelius to die.
If you're a fan of history, you should.
But you would already, yes, of course. But when I
It's
was
a foregone conclusion.
when I was
yeah.
14 years old, I probably didn't know that, or whenever it came out.
Okay, well, quickly, I've just thought of it. We talked about the order. That happened. You get betrayed twice in the order, and like it may not be that surprising, I guess. But I mean, the way they set it up was the way they pulled it off was good enough. But you do get betrayed by people very close to you. They're like they're it's basically the Templar assassin thing. Like instead of it sets up werewolves and vampires instead. But
since we're going up on tangents here for right now,
sure, yeah.
I'd like to bring up another Rockstar franchise,
Okay.
Max Payne.
Damn it! All right, you got it. You got it.
Which everyone you ever meet, and I think that has one of my favorite betrayals of all time in it.
Okay, which
and
one?
particularly since I don't know if it was always planned from the start, but in the first game it has its mixed bag. There's this character you used to work with named BB, who was like another cop. He ends up betraying you. By that point, you killed so many people. So many people have betrayed you. That's like, all right.
He's like, take a number, asshole.
I'll be with you in a minute.
Yeah, but you're working with this Russian mobster throughout the first one. Again, he's charming, and yes, he doesn't have your good intentions at heart, but it's a mutually beneficial relationship. He's looking to weaken the Italian mob, and you're looking to kill them.
He's like a Bond
Right.
Russian.
Yeah.
Where every Russian in Bond is like
Yeah.
just some guy that Bond knows. Like he goes and he's rich as hell. He needs a
I know a
favor.
guy in Russia,
You
yeah.
never trust the guy, but he always comes
But he
through. We
needs
need a
something
favor,
from him.
you know.
That's what the Russians
Yeah.
are for.
Exactly.
Apparently. And tropes, yeah.
But in the second game, you start off by saving basically his life, and throughout you find out that he was the big bad all along, and it's effective because they do establish that relationship.
Yeah.
You
You have a
know
whole
who
past
this
and history
person
with him,
is.
yeah.
And not only is it a history, but it's a history you played.
You've been through.
Right.
You understand if you play the first game, you understand references to the
Yeah,
past
true.
they're
That
talking
happened.
about. And I actually I felt bad when I killed this guy because I genuinely liked him as a character. So anyway, that's my tangent for now.
All right.
Next one.
Next one. Humans are bastards.
Yeah, that we can all agree on.
Fairly
That's certainly
fairly
what
self-explanatory. I think there's always you get a moral lesson after like a shocking revelation. Like
people are
you
gonna
just
fuck you over.
shit, yes, this terrible thing happened. Obviously, people are bastards. That type of thing. Those were the ones for the top-down betrayal where
Sure. And what Giant Bomb did this? You said?
yeah, this was Giant Bomb. Yeah, I'm sure you can find it by searching Betrayal Giant Bomb.
We'll give it credit.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll mark it on the website.
So you got to run down of those. I think the one that we should have brought, or I'm going to bring it up right now. Perhaps the one I say is the best one ever, of course, is Bioshock, and Atlas and Fontaine. So go on.
we're gonna
You got
have
something.
one that specifically relates to
We're
Bioshock
gonna,
later.
we're going to Bioshock and a Bioshock ep for sure, but I mean it has to be mentioned in this conversation. I
No,
think.
I'm saying there's a trope later on.
Oh,
that
is that-
there's
okay.
like 7 more of these.
I thought you were done. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's doing
that-
top-down.
That was top
betrayals.
down. The next
Oh.
one is sidestabbing, which is it's going to come
It's
up
that.
in here.
Okay, sorry. Oh man, I thought there were more sub. Okay, I see. There's subsections of them. Steve has an amazing list here.
So
Go on.
the next section is sidestabbing. People that are on the same level as you, pretty much, betraying you. The first one under that category is double cross, standard. Get betrayed by your friend or your best friend or whatever. It's kind of the Brutus effect. You're like, go ahead.
I had this question earlier. What Uncharted had the British chick that betrayed you? Do you remember that? Do you remember what I'm talking
I
about?
think it was Uncharted 2. We were talking about this earlier.
She
yeah.
appears, I believe, in Uncharted 3 as well.
Okay, that's what's
and then
confusing
she's
me.
shipped off on a bus, which means that
Yeah.
she disappears.
Yeah, she's
randomly,
gone from the plot, and there's no really closing threads for her. Right, but
along with the British guy.
do you remember what her name was? I don't remember.
She was voiced by the character actress who did Morrigan in the Dragon Age.
She was
Really?
Okay. Anyway, all right. I'm just go ahead.
All right, so there was that. The next one is that handsome stranger. Guy comes in, saves your character's life, and then he's immediately your best friend. And it turns out that he's just an asshole the entire time. You're antagonist.
Borderlands
all the
2, he's called Handsome Jack, and of course, he's the villain. But he's
time. He's just playing right off of that
set
trope.
up. Yeah, it's set up. He's like, I'm gonna hire you, and nah, you're betrayed.
Betrayed.
Go on.
And betrayed. So there's that one. Next one is friendly fire. Somebody sells you out. Somebody you probably don't know that well, but you thought for one reason or another they were trustworthy, and it turns out they are not. I didn't have anything specific for that one that I could think of. If you guys think of one, or even
Trying to think of one off.
later, just bring it back.
Well, if you think of
want one out of
NPCs
Right.
in video games, especially RPG type things, where they send you on a small fetch quest and then betray you right after.
Yeah, true.
That's a good. One.
A
Many,
lot
you've
of
seen that a lot.
older RPGs that happens a lot. I think
And even to the modern day, both.
But again, I always feel that those kind of NPC betrayals aren't it happens and it's what I get for trusting a guy in the middle of Wolford Forest.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the best of those are the ones where it's this guy is just a nothing, NPC. You get one random small quest for him, and then you come back, and he turns out he's a big part of the story.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of effective. But again, you've seen it so many times that people know about it. And you're looking for it, you're waiting for it. I know he's coming.
Well, Steve, wouldn't that be more of the handsome Jack type one?
Stranger.
If,
I suppose so, yeah. But still that type of thing where it's you go do this thing for me, and I'll do for you, and then you get betrayed, and it's
backstab.
that ends up moving the plot where you thought it was just a nothing event.
Sure.
The next one is Band of Bastards, where basically your entire team sells you out.
Yeah, that's sort of like GTA-ish thing for 5.
I think it's more of an action movie.
I would say
that's
like
true.
it's probably prevalent in like
You're right about that.
campaign games about the army or something like that. You know, I think it. Not to go back to Metal Gear Solid all the time, but I'm fairly certain they've done that.
I'm
like
sure
once
they
or twice
have.
too.
Yeah, they definitely have.
Or like
You're the biggest MGS fan anyway.
I can't remember specific off the top of my head right now, but
well, theoretically, you were a member of what was it, Fox?
Yeah, and you get completely betrayed by all of them. Like Big Boss ends up defecting to like some other fake country and like Zambania or something.
An XP of whatever.
Yeah.
Zambania.
God. The next one, and this is where you can come in here, Scott, is Long Distance Treason, and this is like an obvious Bioshock one.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
where it's like that voice on the radio is really just manipulating you the entire time, and like that's
you're right.
That's a big part of what
Bioshock fits to that one the most, sure.
But the other thing I like about Bioshock is like the playing, the two like these two people that you never even really actually.
Each of them is telling you how
exactly.
worse the other one is.
They're just playing off of each other, and it's like you don't till the end of the game. You don't really know what either one of them.
You shouldn't trust both of them really, but because of other plot related reasons, you're going to.
All right, those were the side stabbing ones, and then the next ones are bottom up. So the first one on there is
your underlings betray you. You mean?
Yes,
okay.
Or something like that. Someone below you
okay.
betrays you. Like the first one is blocking the spotlight. So like say you're the number one hero or whatever. Your main competition is like does something to get you out of the way. Like frames you for a murder or something like that.
You've seen that a lot. Yeah.
I feel that happens is a betrayal that happens along villains quite often.
Right.
Where,
the dragon and the big bad. Who in case you don't know, just real quickly, the big bad, like the big boss, and then his second in command, his right hand man, betrays him.
What wasn't one of my favorite games of all time was Final Fantasy 3 or 6.
Yes.
And it has a betrayal of the Emperor Gestal, I think was his name, and Kefka ends up throwing him off of a floating continent. Who was his dragon, this monster of a human being before he becomes a monster of a god.
Yeah.
And but the issue I have with it is it's not a very effective betrayal because they establish so often before this betrayal that Kefka is your nemesis. That guy's always in the background. So it just feels like he's almost unnecessary in a sense.
Well, that seems like the Star Wars thing of like, when I guess it's somewhat different, but like Vader is like obviously not the top of the food chain, but he's obviously the nemesis or the main antagonist of those movies,
But that works. But the Emperor has a presence to him that Gesell never achieves
that level.
Maybe they were attempting to do something similar to that.
They didn't get there.
I didn't care about him at all.
Right.
And especially since all of Gesell's lieutenants, Kefka, General Leo, and Calais or Celes, depending on how you pronounce it, are all much more interesting people than he is.
Sure.
Well, that's just
bad characterization.
Yeah, they just didn't do. It sounds like they just didn't do him as they wanted to.
Sure.
Well, thus making what should have been this really epic, moment of backstabbing, as your characters lay helpless as these two powerful bad guys duke it out for who's going to be coming down
the world. Yeah.
Who are you going to have to kill later? Which one of these guys are you going to have to kill?
Who you're going to have to kill later.
Yeah.
It's a foregone conclusion.
You've
it's
already.
Gonna be Kefka,
yeah, fair enough.
Good.
All right. Next one is the formerly bullied bully. You guys have seen this.
I can't think of a good example, but I know what it means. Yeah.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There you go.
Yeah. That's pretty quality.
Actually,
or Michael Myers.
I'll give you an example of
Halloween
this.
Also
was Old School.
Can't think of a video game one
with Jeremy Piven's character or Cheese.
Yeah.
Cheese.
All right, yeah.
I thought that was really well done. Like the guy that they used to push around is now the crusty old dean who they have to,
yes,
whatever. If you've seen Old School, you know it. If not, go watch that movie.
What else we got?
Last one is Hostage Takeover. The person that you're ostensibly there to save ends up being
the villain,
or your like an antagonist, or like
good one
the
like
big
that.
bad.
One of the Metal Gears did that, didn't they? Like I think it was one of the original NES or versions.
It must have been an older
You
one.
went to go save a scientist, but they ended up to be voluntarily working with the big boss.
Big boss.
whatever it was.
Full disclosure, I never came even close to finishing the first 2 Metal Gears. Those games are hard as hell.
Fair enough.
I think I read the Wikipedia pages on them, but like
I read synopsis.
yeah. So that's all. Those were all the tropes that were
Interesting to know.
that were on there, and I think a pretty good list. I don't know. Do you guys have any?
And you can break them all down. Yeah. Just real quickly, there's something that in Hitman they did a good one. I thought in Hitman Absolution, Diana betrays you, or sells you out, which I thought was a good a sidestep one. I don't know if you guys played that. You said you.
Absolution?
Yeah, the newest one. Okay, but it was a good one.
Well, to go back to Steve's list, and now next time someone betrays you, you can point out what cliches.
What kind of betrayal is happening right now? Okay.
You could name it. You can name the betrayal next time.
Yeah, you'd be like, I can't believe your hot stuff is taking over me, man, or whatever.
Good stuff. Yeah, and
Go on.
I guess we should probably put a link to this article that I was referencing.
We'll give them credit. Giant Bomb, all credit to you.
Yeah.
Forget Giant Bomb, it was us.
We made this up. No.
Well, we discussed
don't
tropes.
sue us, Giant Bomb.
Listeners know that we discuss many tropes a lot all the time. Not just those ones, but specifically those ones for tonight's one, of course. Oh, there's one other one. In COD, the general betrays you, so that's like the one where
actually
the kingdom one.
Speaking of COD, when I was doing research for Betrayals, there was one of the Call of Duties that get referenced quite a bit as being like the ultimate example of betrayal.
Yeah.
Now, since I stopped playing Call of Duty around number 2,
it's probably Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, not Modern Warfare 2, just
COD
Call of Duty
2.
2,
which is still the best Call of Duty game of all time. Veteran mode, awesome.
It might be like I stopped playing. I played Modern Warfare 2, and then that's the one that stopped playing any CODs. But 1 and 2 were linked, of course. And the general, yes, he's working with the Russian guy, whatever his damn name was. They betraying America essentially. So that's what they're going for.
Standard, American general betrays America.
Yeah. So I don't know. Was that sarcastic the way you saw it phrased? Like one of the greatest betrayals ever.
Well, again, I haven't seen.
Or the most obvious one, cliched example.
Obviously, people enjoy ham-fisted.
That's true.
Emotion shoved down their throat.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's colored red, white, and blue. So probably it was meant to be the best.
Fair enough. There's one. I have another quick, interesting one. Singularity was sort of a forgotten game. I liked it. It was a good shooter, good for FPS, and about time travel and stuff, time loops, etc. So there were 3 choices at the end, I believe you could make. You could take the flux capacitor, the MacGuffin device that lets you manipulate time. Take it for yourself. And rule the world as the overlord of time.
Just to be clear, I don't think it was actually called the flux capacitor.
No, I know.
Right?
I said it was the MacGuffin one. I'm just using it as a placeholder because I don't remember what it was actually called. Surely it had a name in the plot. And then there were 2 other people you could side with, the evil bad scientist that invented it and knew how to run it and work it, or of course your army general, captain, or colonel, whoever sent you in to extract it. But if you chose the evil scientist, you'd be his right-hand man, and he didn't betray you. It was you ruled in a jointly a very evil partnership of controlling time. I thought that was pretty funny.
So he was the most genuine of all the choices. The evil scientist.
He was I am an evil scientist. Join me, and you will grow with me. You're okay. You're fuck you. You're probably going to betray me. No, he's see, I told you. I'm a man of my word.
I'm a great guy.
Yeah.
So I've been playing Diablo 3 quite a bit, and they actually have what would have been a great betrayal.
Okay.
You end up
if it wasn't ruined by the achievements.
Exactly, which
As
I've mentioned
multiple times.
Yeah. It still causes me my eye to twitch.
Sure.
But you end up meeting a character from the original game, Adria the Witch, and again, all the elements. You have history with this character. She's involved with the plot. And you actually go on travels with her. You save her life. She helps, but she's working for the bad guy all along.
Mm-hmm.
However, again, if you casually glance through what the achievements are,
you're man.
It doesn't directly spoil that, but enough that it put a nail in the coffin for what was going to happen.
Sounds like they ripped off Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Maybe.
Sorry.
There was one you had like the Kingdom one, the Cruel Kingdom. Not quite that. It's like that. The example I'm thinking of is Fable 2, wherein you learn that like your brother, the king or whatever, like he's set up to be like a dictator, tyrannical ruler. He's like oppressing everybody, but he's doing all this stuff in order to prevent like basically like fucking Lovecraftian monsters are coming to kill us. Like, so we need to like get this shit in order. And he's like basically he's like, all right, he's like, here's why I was doing all that stuff. You want to try to deal with it? Here you go. Here's the fucking crown. I'm out. Like, and that's what happens. The plot. I thought it was like a funny one, like kind of. So
It's like the opposite of Betrayal.
sort of like like you find out he was like, you think he's evil, but he's okay. He's fine. And he's like, now you have to deal with this because now you know what it's like.
Yeah. This might be a bit of a stretch, but I think this is a good subversion of standard expectations. In Valiant Hearts. Now, granted, generally, war games, you're dealing with the Germans or Arabs being evil people, and you being either America or Britain. And in this one, you start off, and it starts off with very much that kind of polarity to it.
Yeah.
And as you go on, actually, the French become, in a sense, the bad guys as their country starts deteriorating under the pressure
That's a
of
good
the
point.
war. And
Valiant Hearts is a very interesting and well done game, and like very smartly as well.
I think that's a very good subversion on general war games in general.
I was actually going to say, I forgot in the first part of this podcast to mention
Emile.
The death of Emile was a really good
well done.
empathy
inducing
moment of that game.
Well,
agreed.
As much as I did feel an emotional impact from the death, I thought with the accidental death you can get into,
that was really funny. Not funny, but yeah, well done. Go ahead.
Running the wrong direction during one of the things, your commander will just shoot you in the head.
Yeah, if you try to desert, you get shot. Yeah, which is accurate.
What happened?
Accurate.
Yeah.
And I think such a nice little touch that people who play the game might not even ever.
You might not have noticed that. Yeah,
right.
But it's
if it did, it's really cool. You should think it's cool because it is.
But I think that's a great. So like in war games, you don't see this enough where like your side or the side. I mean, in that game you kind of see both sides, but like in war games you don't see this enough where like your side becomes just the monsters. You know.
Yeah, it was
because a lot of times in war, like that's what actually happens. You're like, yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of horrible shit that happens, and people do some shitty things.
Sure. And it was a well done commentary upon that kind of stuff and that point. One more, I mentioned this. I spoiled this game for you guys already enough anyway, so it doesn't matter. The end of Far Cry 3, if you chose the one ending, you're banging this chick like it's like a 2-minute long scene of you having sex with her, and you're like, all right. And then, well, first of all, you betray your friends essentially. You choose to kill them, and then she's like, "You have chosen well, Jason. Now let us celebrate." And you're banging her. And then she like basically comes and then takes out a knife and murders you. And that's like the the final thing that happens in the game. So I thought that again, like given everything else about that game,
hell of a way to go out.
It was like it's so good. Like I was like, what an amazing ending. So sweet. I was like about this to sort of broadly. I know I'm gonna get betrayed like inevitably almost in any game. I'm like that might have been the best one I've ever seen. It was really
good. What's the phrase? If you lie with
I don't know what phrase you're going.
I guess it's if you lie with dogs, I think. But for some reason in my head while you were saying that, I was like, if you lie with lions.
Yeah, okay.
That was not.
Well, there were lions and there were both wild dogs.
After I started talking, I was like, this is wrong. This is just going all wrong.
Next time, remember what quote you want. But that's pretty much that might be like the most recent best one that I've seen. It was like amazingly pulled off.
All right, now while I'm sure that Scott and Steve-O wish to talk some more about this wonderful topic, I'm going to stab them in the heart and end this. So this has been Syntax Error, not a brief history in the days. That's another podcast.
Check the recent days out though.
Back when I had empathy. This is Jonathan Ian Manzer with Scott Thurlow.
I will have to go back to being chewed in Satan's mouth now.
And Stephen Omosi.
I am in the midst of being stabbed at the moment.
Yes. And very quiet about it.
Ah!
He's used to it. He knows it's coming.
See you come from a mile away. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Bye.
This has been Syntax Error. Thank you as always for listening, and we will see you next time. Music by Stephen Omosi. Editing and engineering by Chris Morgan. Syntax Error is part of a Lost Signals Productions. All rights reserved.